So we're here with Dan Flynn, who's a human events columnist and author of the brand new book, Blue Collar Intellectuals, When the Enlightened and the Everyman Elevated America. Dan, thanks for joining Human Events for an interview.
Hey, thank you for having me, Jason.
Okay, so first off, blue collar intellectual, what does that mean?
Blue collar intellectual is a thinker who comes from a working class or an immigrant background who, when he becomes an authority in his field, directs at least part of his work from that the masses from which he sprang. And I think if you look nowadays at intellectuals, they often speak in a jargon that I don't even think they understand. They speak at conferences that no one attends. They write books that nobody reads. It's almost that they're not communicating any substantive idea. They're really just communicating their apartness from the rest of society. With blue-collar intellectuals, this is evoking a time in America where intellectuals opened up the conversation to all comers, and the everyman was reaching for something higher rather than dragging his arms ever lower. And I think nowadays, with the onslaught of reality television and just invasive technology, you take the train over here to Human Events, you see people not reading as much as they used to on the train, but playing video games, texting. Far be it from me to tell anyone how to use their own time, but I think what we see now in 2011, 2012 is how people use their leisure time is becoming largely a waste of time, and it wasn't always so, and this is what the book is about.
Speaking of the intellectual crowd that writes and they possibly don't even know what it means, Cornel West, do you think when he speaks he knows he's even talking about?
I don't know. He has the mannerisms of an intellectual down pat. I think he's got sort of the identikit look. He has sort of Karl Marx's haircut, maybe a little bit of Frederick Douglass thrown in there. But when he opens his mouth, I don't know. He is a rapper, so he's got away with words.
All right, let's bring it back, bring it down to application. Blue collar intellectual. You actually write about Milton Friedman, how he's one of the iconic blue collar intellectuals, and you compare him to Keynes. Explain.
Yeah, Friedman certainly a guy who's a hero to a lot of readers of Human Events. When he grew up, and I think one of the reasons why he was such a great economist was because he worked in the economy, and that's not something that all economists can say. And so when Friedman grew up, he lived atop his family's in-home business. He scooped ice cream in their ice cream parlor. He sold fireworks by the side of the road. When he went to Rutgers on a state scholarship, Friedman waited tables for a wage. I'm sorry, not for a wage, but for a lunch, for free lunch. He found out that at Rutgers at this time that the students, the freshmen, they all had to wear green ties and they all had to wear white socks. So he went door to door selling green ties and white socks. He partnered with Barnes & Noble way back when, 70, 80 years ago. He partnered with Barnes & Noble at Rutgers to do he had this buyback scheme of books, and he would find out which books professors were selling the next semester, signing, and he would buy them back, and he'd get a cut of this. This is all to say that he knew that economics was not just about abstract numbers. He knew it was about people because he had worked in the economy. And you can't afford to have bad ideas when there are repercussions to those ideas for you. You contrast this with a guy like John Maynard Keynes. Keynes's dad was a famous academic, a famous economist. Keynes went to Eton and Cambridge, which are real fancy schools in the United Kingdom. He cavorted with this aristocratic bisexual clique known as the Bloomsbury Group in the 1920s. Point of all this is you can't, that's about as far away as Rahway, New Jersey as it gets. And that's where Milton Friedman grew up. And I'm not suggesting that, it didn't help that Friedman was also, well-schooled in mathematics, or that, and I don't know that Keynes would have been a better economist if he had scooped ice cream. But the point of all this is that when you actually work in the economy, you may have some insights into the economy that people who don't work in the economy don't have. And I think that's true with Friedman. Helps explain why his practical economics worked. And it also helps explain why Keynes's economics was more grabbed from the ether, was more theory-driven, and doesn't have as much practical application as a guy like Friedman's.